Hi, everyone, to our third Fire in the Dark interview. And today I'm joined by a Mr. John Downey.
Hello.
So we're gonna get right into it, John. Who are you? What do you do?
I'm John Downey, that is. I'm a lot of things. I'm a brewer. I brew beer for a living professionally. I am a podcaster. I am an opera singer. My bachelor's degree is in opera. I'm a just general performer, and I'm very happy to be here. That's the end to my answer of who I am. Who I am
Perfect.
is happy to be here.
Happy to be here. And all of John's links and things will be in the show notes. So be sure to check out all of them,
Yes.
including the Outlaws Network, which is fantastic.
Yeah, all the content stuff that I could have plugged there.
No, it's
Yeah,
all in the notes. Go check the
go
notes.
check all that. It's all great and
John,
worthy of your time, I promise.
yeah. John, much like me, is in too many things at once, so we're just gonna put
Correct.
them in the show notes. So then, John, what we're gonna talk about Mort, just like
Yeah.
elevator pitch. Who's Mort?
Oh,
What
Mort.
inspirations did you pull from? Music or otherwise, that kind of thing.
Yes. Oh, Mort is a lovable, quiet mountain. He he's I wanted to I had the idea that I wanted to be like sort of a sidekick kind of character going into character creation. Like my character creation process is when it comes to CCRPGs, and it's usually starts as like a very simple idea, and then I just try and kind of put myself in those shoes of that simple idea. Like I try and get very personal with it very quickly. Like I just try and get the very bare bones of a character and then immediately put that suit on and then figure the rest out like through improv basically. So the very bare bones idea was like, okay, I see all of these different tropes that are given to you by the system, by Blades in the Dark, and some of these seem more fun than other ones potentially, or I can see what direction like my castmates could go in. And I love to take sort of a support role, and I love a challenge. So like I wanted to find maybe a role that other people might not immediately jump at, and a role that would help us sort of round out our team mechanically. So I found Cutter, which is basically like it seemed to me like your muscle or like a bodyguard type of person. And I was like, I can run with that. That's super easy. It's not sexy at all. Like on the outset, it's just a very basic like muscle class. And I can see why other people might not be into that, but it seems like it'd be very useful to have one of those people around. So from a support standpoint, I was like, okay, that seems very good to me. And then I had the idea to be like the lovable himbo, but I have another character that's very similar to that in another TTRPG that I do on the Outlaws Network. So I wanted to change it a little bit. I think I ended up with a character that's pretty cut and dry, like a character trope wise that we've seen in a lot of other media, but I still had a lot of fun playing with that. And I'm not too afraid of doing something that's been done before. So
yeah. Well, originality's been dead. Like as someone who
there's
actively
only
designs,
so much we can do.
I really love that description, especially as someone who also does like the support role style characters. But I personally describe Mort as a mountain-sized cinnamon roll. I think that's like the one
apt.
sentence version.
I love that.
But so were there any any pieces of media? I know we talked a bit about the tropes, but were there any pieces of media or like inspirations that you pulled from when creating Mort?
Character wise, not necessarily. I think we've seen the sort of like sidekicky, quiet, big bodyguard type in a lot of different forms. So in that regard, I mean, take your pick of any media that has that I've seen, because I was definitely that definitely helped with this character. Something that never came up, and it wasn't really supposed to. I cannot tell you why I did this, but when it came to the name specifically, the only I wanted this to be a character that was very personal for some reason. Like I just wanted to be like have the option to go really deep with this character, especially since with those sidekicky characters in media, you don't usually get to go that deep with them, unless you get way too much of this product. I'm thinking like a Hodor in Game of Thrones. Like you don't know fuck all about that guy until you get way down the line, and you're like, oh, this is his entire backstory. Now you know everything about him. So I wanted the option there, and so I started very close to home with specifically the name. So Mort, specifically Mort the Mouth, is actually, if you said those words to maybe your parents or your grandparents, they would actually know who you're talking about. My great uncle, his name is Morton Downey Jr. He was known as Mort the Mouth because he had his own TV show in the 80s that was called the Morton Downey Jr. Show. It's not a good show. He was not a good person. And that's kind of why I started there, was because I wanted something that was based in my own blood and based in truth, but was definitely something that you want to look away from the more you see it and take it in. You can find full episodes of this person's TV show. I don't necessarily recommend it. I think you should probably
including them, because I actually now that you've said it, I do recognize this. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one. If you've ever seen Predator 2, he also cameoed as himself in Predator 2. That was specifically the height of his fame, I think. All you need to know about him is that his Wikipedia page credits him with pioneering trash talk television. So not a great not a role model by any means. So yeah, he basically had a whole TV show that was just him bringing on guests that he disagreed with, and he had a very cult-like audience. So basically he would bring them on to talk about their opinions, and then he would just yell at them and then have his audience members get up and also yell at them. It was not fun. There was a lot of very bad opinions, and he had a very controversial presence in general. So definitely not a good dude. But that's kind of why I wanted to start there, because we're scoundrels, right? Well, that's the whole point, is like I wanted it to be very based in myself and based in truth, and then also something that's kind of difficult to grasp, trying to step into the shoes of someone who you pretty morally disagree with at a very base level, you know? So that's why I started there. And then Morrison, he's Mort the Mouth Morrison. That's actually a very old family name from this same line in the family tree. I didn't want to just throw in Mort the Mouth Downey, because that's literally just the dude's name. But Morrison, what is cool about this side of my family tree specifically is that you can track them all on Wikipedia. There's famous performers starting with him, and it goes all the way back to like Civil War times. You can just trace it all the way back on Wikipedia, which is very cool. But the oldest you can get is a guy named Morris W. Morris, or Lewis Morrison was another name he went by. And he was a stage performer. And his Wikipedia page, it's not this anymore. I was very surprised to see that it had changed recently, but his picture on his Wikipedia page for a long time was him playing Mephistopheles in Faust, which is just very, very cool. So yeah, there's long line of performers in the Downeys. But yeah, so that's where I got Morrison from, was that.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Besides the name though, Mort started in that place and then got very personal to me and very personable and turned into a nicer guy than I wanted him to be. Which is kind of why I'm glad that Jamie was able to help me go in some directions that were like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what is this? Why are you doing this? And we still don't really have the answers.
No, we don't. Trust me, I have things to poke at when we talk later. Now, kind of all that being said, you talked about how for you creating a character and playing them is like putting on a suit or putting on a costume, and then that Mort specifically is kind of built around being very personal to you.
Yeah.
So throughout this season, how did you deal with like the concept of character bleed, where the feelings run over?
Yeah. So this is something that you do see it, and it's very real. And luckily for me, it's just not something that comes up very frequently. I don't know if that's because I don't know why, and it's kind of useless to speculate, but it's not something that I struggle with, thankfully. It might be because of just the amount of hours I've put in on stage and stuff like that. Like I've been on and off stage doing performances of this and that ever since I was a kid. So I mean,
I was about to say that would be my first guess.
Yeah,
because that's usually what I point to, because I've only had one or two moments like that, and I talked a bit with Parker about this, so I don't want to repeat myself, but like that doesn't come up very often. But I also remember playing 20 different characters before I got to this point.
Right. So
all that being said, the next few questions I have are all season 1 related.
Okay.
And we're not including the finale.
Got it. Great.
The finale gets its own bubble.
Okay. All right.
So walking into this season of Fire in the Dark, we've talked a bit about your original expectations for Mort. We've already mentioned how they played out, and how did they really change for you throughout the season? Because you talked about how Mort started as like not a great guy.
Yeah.
How did that change for you throughout the season?
So I think all of these things just, this is the really interesting thing about TTRPGs and improv in general, right? I'm not one of those people that comes up with a character and has the character completely fully fleshed out exactly how I want them to be perceived, etc. by the time I show up on day one. I don't want to have that situation, because like a lot of what I personally get out of TTRPGs is the performance and the improv of it all, and I don't want to be hindered by that in any way. Not that it is hindering for everyone who does this, but it would hinder the way that I go through my characters if that's what I was doing. I love to be able to show up on day one and have someone throw out a line that's like, hey, why are you I don't know, why are you staring at that banister? We had a situation, I don't know if it was session 0 or session 1, but somebody made some offhand comment about the woodwork, or about how I think it was Jamie narrating that I was appreciating the woodwork on a banister in a house that we were in. And I was like, sure, Mort can be super into woodwork. Why not? And like, I love having that having so many potential openings in your character for those things to sort of bleed in. And that's a very simple example that, I mean, you could tack that on to basically anybody. It wouldn't be a problem, but that's a very minor example of something like that. Like I'm very open to even other people making pretty major decisions for my character for me. And then just saying like, yeah, okay, I guess this is the direction we're going. Sure. That's set in stone now, baby. Where and that's just the nature of improv, and that's what I love about it. It changed a lot very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think all the baking stuff that became a pretty big trope pretty quickly, and that's one thing that I think ingratiated me to some of the people who watch the show, and definitely my castmates as well. And that was just a random improv thing. I think it was just there was a silence that went on a little too long, and I wanted to throw something out. It's like, so, lemon bars, you know?
If I remember correctly, at first, you didn't even make the lemon bars. You had just brought them.
Right. Yeah.
And then it evolved into Mort the Mouth, the baker.
Yeah. Right.
And
and I
love that so much.
And I had the thought at one point that was like, I could just go wholly into this and say, yes, I'm a baker. It's my life out like whenever we're not doing shenanigans and robbing people or whatever, I am just in the bakery, like in the kitchen with the hot oven, making everything you can imagine. And then at a certain point I was like, I think it's more interesting if like he's got lemon bars from this recipe that he had, and then like one or two other things that he knows how to make. And I wanted that to become a process that we were going through in real time, as opposed to something from his past. It's like he brought lemon bars, then he tried his hand at making them, and people were very, very excited, and they really, really liked them. And then, okay, let's try this other thing that I found a recipe for. And it sort of, we're watching Mort become a better baker as it goes on, as opposed to this is just a thing he did forever, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree.
I thought that was a more interesting choice. So
I 100% agree. It's one of like my favorite little, not even an arc for Mort, but just like seeing that progress throughout the season. You can definitely see where like he's trying new things, or he's like, oh, I got this recipe from someone. And it was so much fun to watch. So while we're on the topic of Mort and baking, this question came from Parker. What is Mort's favorite pastry that he wishes he knew how to make?
Is his favorite pastry that he doesn't know how to make, but he wishes he could?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
You're the only one where this question is even more confusing.
This is something you've been asking to everybody?
Yeah, this is, what is your character's favorite pastry that you secretly wish Mort knew how to make?
And for me, it kind of comes around and eats itself.
Yeah, it's like, what does Mort not know that he wants to know?
Yeah, right. What's his aspiration bake? Oh, that's so tough because he's in there. If it was simple enough, he could just do it.
Yeah.
I want to say something like a baklava or something, like something that's a little trickier, that might have some maybe ingredients he doesn't know how to get his hands on. I think baklava is a good choice. Also, I get to live vicariously through my characters a little bit because I developed an allergy to pistachios, and I can't have baklava anymore, and I fucking love it.
Yeah.
So let's go with that. That's good.
Perfect. So now we hit more of the highlights section of season 1.
Okay.
Starting with, what was your favorite score / episode and why?
I think, again, because of what I like to get out of my TTRPGs, I think my favorite episode was the episode where the Foghounds came to us for help with their hunt problem.
Episode 3, War and Peace.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because that was where y'all went to the neutral ground at the
Yep.
abandoned church. The hunt showed up at one point, and then y'all had to go out into the Deathlands.
Yeah, it was a super weird. It was unlike anything we had done before, and it was very unlike anything we ended up doing later either. It was a very, very unique scenario, and it, for whatever reason, it lent itself very well to character progression for Mort. I don't know how everybody else walked away from it, but I felt like Mort's character came out of that having been on a roller coaster.
Cole really liked it as like the consequences of our actions sort of deal,
Yeah,
because the
sure.
Foghounds were something from session 0.
Yeah.
So like the audience didn't know too much about it, just knew that y'all were in trouble with the Foghounds because we had referenced it a couple times at this point.
Yeah.
And then for Parker, it was really interesting because that was the episode where we really first got to see the ghost veil effect, where Parker could like turn invisible.
Right.
And just kind of the confirmation that everyone cared about each other, because Crow is like, I thought you had already left. I'm so sorry. And Asher's just like, oh, it's fine. I got money. We get paid.
Yeah. And that was like, I think this wasn't something that was addressed in the episode, but looking back on it, had you asked Mort the question, how do you feel coming out of this engagement the day after that event happened, he would have probably felt horrible, because his whole thing is trying to get everybody out safe. He just wants to make sure that he's the last one out and make sure that everybody gets through. And obviously I, as the player, knew that Parker's character was still in there. And I just, there's those moments where you're looking more at playing the game as opposed to playing the meta game, and you just have to understand that your character does not know some things, and you have to act on what they actually know. And that was one of those moments where Mort thought everyone was out, so he left, and then finding out that they were still in there would have killed him. Like he would have been in a bad place, knowing that he had not left every stone unturned.
Yeah, that just confirmed for me that like the weirder the episode, I feel like we get so much good character progression out of it. Because actually we'll hit on this in a minute. Because one of the other things is more like overall throughout the season, again, not including the finale, what are, pulling from our decompress, favorite moments for you? And so anybody on the cast could fit this bill. And then favorite moments for Mort specifically. What is your highlight reel for Fire in the Dark?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean, definitely one of my favorite moments was Asher going for that safe when there was literally a monster in the room. I do think I think we touched on this as a group after the finale maybe, but that was one scene where if you were hiring an artist to depict a scene to be like the background image that showed everybody, every single character doing exactly what they are designed to do all in one shot, in the hardest of situations, in like the highest stress scenario, that was the scene over for the entire season. Everybody was in one room together. We've got like everybody doing exactly what their character is designed for, while there's this hideous monster trying to kill everyone at the same time. And I think the pinnacle of that was Asher's decision to have all of this chaos going on and then see a safe and say, I have to, definitely one of my favorite moments overall. My favorite moment with Mort though, we had that scene where we had that meeting ground where it's like accepted that there's no weapons, and there's like a silent agreement made where if you if you do anything violent to the people in there, then everyone will know and it'll really affect your reputation. Like there's all sorts of repercussions for going back on that, basically. So that scene, I personally had to go through so many different emotions with Mort. And this is a person who's been through the military. They have, and beyond that, their word is their bond. That's the big thing with Mort. That became the big thing with Mort, is that his word was his bond. And so he has this connection to this group of people that he's been with, to the Murmur Venture Project, these other people in the crew. He's basically agreed to help them get with whatever they need. Essentially, it started out as, we're going to try and get pyro off the streets, and for Mort, that's a win-win. That's great. It's clearly done a lot of damage, and getting it off the streets is only a good thing. But as that went on, you have connections with these people that you're working with, and you're working towards the same goal. And so in addition to that, he has this background now with the Hunt. The Hunt came to him and had this conflict. He sort of managed, the Hunt kind of managed to appeal to this weird primal aspect of Mort, and sort of sink his teeth into Mort in a way that I didn't expect, and I don't think Mort did either. So at the same time, I don't think Mort had an idea, and I definitely didn't have an idea of the extent of the Hunt's reach until this episode. This episode, where it became very clear that I am no better than the people pushing pyro on the streets. I am basically helping this demon who is just killing people for no reason. And I thought that maybe being with the Hunt and getting help from the Hunt was going to help me get better at what I do, be more helpful to my group, and I didn't think there would be really any repercussions with that. Then you get to this episode, War and Peace, and you realize the Hunt is using you. He's killing people, and it's partially your fault. It's largely your fault, specifically for this group that you're being confronted with now, with the Foghounds. So getting them to confront, and then having a separate side conversation with my crew and saying, those people are fucking goners. There's no reason to help them. I've seen what this dude can do, and these people are going to die. I don't think there is any way to fix this for them. They're an opposing gang. We're at war with them right now. We should just walk away. And because I'm now concerned with what could happen to us if we oppose the Hunt. And then literally in the middle of that thought process, he realizes that it doesn't matter. He's given these people his word. These people have his group, the Murmur Venture Project. He's given them his word, and they as a group have decided to help them. And that, he realizes in the moment, is what matters. And the chips will fall where they may at that point. So that's where he sort of just completely goes back and defaults to, I'll go with the group, and I'm sorry, and I'll do what I can to help. And it just goes wild from there. Like it was some of the most character that I've been able to lend to a game like this, to a TTRPG in real time, in a span of like 10 minutes.
Something like that. Because like, you're talking about this, and throughout this whole interview process, I forget how important that episode is for all of you, because it's so interesting to see, like, the development with the Hunt, Asher being Asher, Tristero, I think, traumaing out again. Traumaed out in the church, or like right outside.
I don't
the church.
remember.
I would have to rewatch the
trauma.
it. But No, it's just like that episode was really interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of expanding out. Favorite NPC from this season and why?
Oh, that's hard.
Uh-huh.
Dang. I mean, okay.
And this is pre-finale, if that helps.
Sure. I mean, Rick immediately comes to mind.
Yeah.
Rick was a very good and I guess I don't know. I feel like I've been telling people that Rick was a spur of the moment character. I don't know if Jamie has a short list of NPCs that they have already had in mind that they might be pulling from, but
I
to
have no
me,
clue.
yeah, from my standpoint, it seemed like they were creating this character whole cloth in the moment, and it was such a well thought out NPC with so much character behind them. So I loved Rick. I think a sleeper pick would have been Jeff, and Jeff was very short lived as well. I loved that. That was a very early on character that I really enjoyed. Their sort of very short, maybe 2-episode existence.
Yeah. No, that one was really good.
Yeah.
And then okay, before I get to this last question, other thing I like to ask is taking a look at episode 6, which is burning the wick at both ends. How did it feel having a 5th member of the crew for an episode?
Very natural, weirdly. I didn't feel like it was a disruption really at all from my standpoint. I don't know if maybe that's an oversight on our part as a group. The fact that I don't think we ever had a huddle to be like, do we trust this person? Like, should we just be listening to them entirely and going with them, like whatever they say? So maybe that's on us, the fact that it wasn't.
It worked out.
It did work out in the end. But yeah, it was. I mean, obviously, it was super fun having you at the table with us. You're always there, but having you actually playing with us was extremely fun, and that it's such a good character too. Yeah, Wick is great, and that it was a very fun energy to throw into this mix completely. Because it's definitely not a character trope that existed in this group prior to. I think Wick is probably most like Tristero, if you had to pick, but I mean, it was a very refreshing addition, I would say.
And then I'll just pull this in here, even though it's part of my season 2 questions. Would you like to see more guests in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if not for any other reason now, because I kind of want a redemption. it just to show our collective minds working from a safety standpoint within the, like, in context safety. For us to be like, okay, like we'll go with them, but like let's be careful about this, because we got lucky the first time.
you very much did. That being said, you're talking about huddling up for a little Wick. Person you should have been worried about was right under your nose the whole time.
Yeah.
But before I hit on the finale and all the revelations that came with that, does Mort have any regrets pre-finale?
Honestly, I think this started pretty early on in the season. I think episode 3 was this point, and then everything afterwards is because of that. I think Mort's only regret still, even before the finale, after the finale, was doing anything with the hunt.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Well then, Actually, one more question because I forgot about
Yeah,
this one. John, this was your first time playing Blades in the Dark.
it was.
How do you like it?
I love it. Honestly, I think it's very conducive to being a show. I think this was a perfect AP because I'm not into AP for like learning games. I think watching AP is a great way to learn. It's how I learned Dungeons and Dragons, was watching and listening to AP. But I think that AP is kind of at its best when it is approached more as a show as opposed to just watching people play a game as it's intended. I think there's a little bit of rule bending and a little bit of this and a little bit of that is sometimes necessary depending on the game. And I think that that's not really present here. It's not needed. It's an open enough game system where you can have a little bit of crunch and you can work out your little game mechanics and you can sort of optimize your play that way, but it does leave a lot open for character growth and storytelling, and I think it's perfect. The one aspect of the game that I absolutely adore, that I wanted to play with more, and I could never that's the one thing that I want to figure out how to do naturally and work in more, is the flashbacks. Because it's such a cool thing to throw into your system, especially since it's all based on like heists, and you watch like the Ocean's movies and they always have that. It's all there as you're setting up the heist in concept. You're also, the audience is watching them as they're going through the actual heist itself. There's always that scene, and then way down the line it gets more dramatic and things go wrong, and then all of a sudden there's a twist and there's a flashback, like, oh right, we're still talking about the plan. You're sort of woken up to the fact that you're still not in the moment yet. You're still hearing the plan, and there's a twist of like, oh right, there's a whole other thing that happened that made it so the odds are actually in our favor, but you thought they weren't. And I love putting that sort of improv capability on you to be able to say, what could have we done in the past to make this better, and not be completely stonewalled and said, okay, well, that it's gone, you can't, that happened, this is the present, you can't go back to the past. But in this, it allows for that very cinematic moment of like, twist, we actually did set up perfectly for this. And I think the way we worked that out best was during the party episode.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Was the party, that was like backup house,
complete, like perfect play for that episode. It was a perfect demo of what the system can do and what the system can be. It was very, very cool, and I wish that I want more chances to be able to come up with those flashbacks on my own, because it was something every time we sat down, I was like, remember, you can do the flashback thing, and that'd be very, very cool to be able to pull that out. And I never figured it out. But
I was thinking of some moments about that during the finale. Now, the finale is a rare case because like y'all were kind of set up to have to go in not knowing a whole lot.
We were very blindsided by a lot of things.
So but the finale's one that I pull from like knowing, let's say you need to know what the ghosts, the lowest tier pyro pushers, what their agenda was for the day. That's something where you could flash back to you doing consort or command to get that information and then pop back to the present, things like that. Because I personally also love flashback. Can't figure out how to do it other than
it's hard. It's you have to get your brain to work in a different way.
Because like for Wick, it used to be whenever I did flashback, it'd be like, oh, did I remember to make this thing, or go to my usual alchemy person and be like, hey, I need these 6 ingredients for this very specific thing. and run through it that way. So for me, it was more like, what do I need a flashback to get so I have it now?
Yeah.
Which kind of played into load, so it was always interesting.
Yeah. And my load was basically armor every single time.
Oh, 100%. You burned. There are so many discarded like vest and plates and whatever else just on the boat somewhere.
Yeah.
So now we get to the crux of the moment, the finale. It was a lot, and it was a lot for Mort specifically.
It was. I was not expecting that much attention, I think, going into the finale.
So first off, I think I just have to jump to that. How did it feel confronting Mort's father?
Super weird, because I the player thought that person was dead. I had written up a very like a very almost edgelord kind of backstory page for this, and I didn't expect any of it to come up, honestly. I wrote that and was like, okay, I have this in the back of my mind, and maybe Jamie does a little bit too, but I'm not expecting any of it to come back around. And then to have to confront not only a character you thought was dead, but a character that's as important as like a father figure to come back is so much. And he had to confront a lot of things at once, because he had no idea what his parents were involved in prior to his military time. He just knew that they were rich, and that was it. Like he knew about his upbringing and the fact that they weren't really around very much, and he didn't really knew what they did. That was basically it. Then you get to the military time. He hasn't spoken to his family in probably years at that point. He goes back to his family home during this attempted coup, and his unit for some reason gets assigned to this house, and he ends up having to have a full-on battle with his father as his mother runs off into the sunset by herself. And he is driven now by his connection and devotion to his new family, which is his military unit. He's completely devoted to them, and this is the objective right now, is to stop this person, no matter who it is. So he completely kills this person, or at least he thinks he did. I think the way it was written was he stabbed him in the neck. And then he just assumed he was dead, and I guess the military had confirmed it at some point. So in his mind, confirmed kill. He still doesn't know about the drug involvement. He doesn't know about the pyro. He just knows that his dad is dead. So he thought. Then you get to right now, where the last like several, maybe full year, or at least a several months span has been spent dealing with pyro and seeing the destruction it can cause, and all of the death that it's caused, and then seeing this person has been in charge of it the entire time. He's your dad, the one you thought you killed. This person who you had no reason to specifically hate, other than that they were not a very good parent to you. Now, not only like you were guilty for killing them, because why did they have to die? Now they're alive, and that makes you happy because you don't have to feel that guilt that you've had for so many years, but also they're in charge of all of this stuff that you've been working against. So actually, maybe you do need to kill them, and maybe there is a reason for it, but then you still have the guilt of having to kill someone. So it was like, there were so many layers that you had to work through in that very moment.
Now, cutting back real quick, because there's one thing I had a question about.
Sure.
You say stabbed in the neck.
Yes.
Then what's the bite mark about?
So this was a seed that I had planted basically to create a sense of sort of shame and So what happened was he stabs his father in the neck.
Yeah.
Then these are two giant men. I mean,
yeah.
So and they're in a complete tussle. His dad is sort of is towering over him a little bit, gets the stab, and then falls onto Mort. Physically, Mort takes him, and his face sort of ends up in the crook of his neck.
Yeah.
Turns around, body falls to the ground. His face is now covered in blood. The nickname, the Mouth, is a rumor. It's fully a rumor.
Oh.
From other people in his unit seeing him that. With his mouth covered in blood.
That's
completely a rumor. Him biting his dad's neck, anything like that, like weird vampire-y sort of hearsay, complete rumor, never actually happened. And that was just a way of being like, I love this, that everyone has their alias, and I wanted to give that some dimension. And this was a way to say, I have an alias. It is something that people know me by. I fucking hate it.
I love that. I love that. And I think that really showed in the moment, like as soon as that bite mark appeared, you even made that same comment of like, that's a name I hate being known by, something along those lines. And I loved hearing that. Because actually, I don't even know if I talked with Jamie about this. The reason Wick is called Wick is because he's short-tempered.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
I love that. Because there's so many other reasons why you could be named Wick.
Yeah, the whole explosion aesthetic for one. But no, it's because while he was in the military, he was very short-tempered, so he became whatever his title was, Wick.
Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah, so same hat is all I'm saying.
Same hat.
So then on top of that, with Mort's father, you also get into the fact that he's also with the Hunt, in a sense.
Right.
Like he was with the Hunt, and then is what happens when you don't work with him anymore.
So now there's the added layer of you're probably the reason why the Hunt approached me in the first place, as we've discussed, the only thing he's actually regretting at this point in time.
Yep.
And that's your fucking fault. This guy who I thought I was feeling guilty about killing for no reason, I now have several reasons to want to kill you.
Yep.
Why do I not? Why do I? Like, yeah.
And all that conglomerated into, wow, that was terrible words.
It was a word
on my part. It was a word. Combined into what is probably my favorite line from you out of this game.
Okay.
Which was, you talk about how much you don't want to be a father. Let me end that for you.
Oh, shit.
I was like, holy shit, that just came out of John Downey's mouth. What the fuck? And then we immediately went to break.
Yeah. Oh, what a miserable breaking point. I was just like, let me in there. Let me do this. Yeah.
Oh, it was so good. So
it's very fun.
I wanted to specifically talk about that encounter because I think it's really good. And the fight that played out after was also phenomenal.
Yeah.
And getting to see, I think we got a little bit of a taste of what the Hunt's going to be like for you going into season 2 with that. Because like you were getting armor, you got claws, you got like everything out of that.
Mort got real scary. Yeah.
Yeah. So then kind of taking a step back and talking about the finale overall. Same thing as before. Favorite moment for Mort, favorite moment overall.
My favorite, I would say my favorite moment, if I can make it.
Yeah. As little or as big as you want.
My favorite moment is Tristero confronting Mort when he's given up after killing his father again.
Yeah.
He said exactly the words that Mort needed to hear. when he otherwise would have probably just let himself die in a building collapse. And the reason it was so cathartic was because of the way that Cole played that entire episode. That Tristero as a character had made their way so convolutedly, and it was all up and down and it was very, very fun to watch, and Cole played it amazingly. And all of the NPCs that Jamie had put together for all the people from Cole's backstory, from Tristero's backstory, were so stellar. It was so cool watching all of those scenes. And this episode, the finale, was when Tristero really came into their own of being a full-blown leader. The torch has been passed, and Tristero had taken it up and said, I am going to lead this crew, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And that seed had been planted at the beginning of the episode and had sort of shown itself. And then that moment is really when it was like, you are a leader. You are a leader who deserves to be followed.
Yeah.
Love that. With Mort, I mean, honestly, it might be the same moment.
Yeah.
Trying to confront what more do I have to give? What can I really do from here? Where can we go? And trying to think about that, trying to put myself in Mort's shoes in that moment.
Yeah.
And honestly, trying to think of reasons to continue on, and then receiving them and taking that and like, is that enough in this moment? And Mort being the man that he is, the answer was yes. So yeah, it was a very good climactic moment for sure.
And then kind of along with that, who's your favorite NPC from this episode? Because there were several new ones. We had Bear. We had Bear, your father, Vial Smasher, Archie.
yeah, new side of Archie. New
side of Archie. That's 4 off the top of my head.
There was one more like general, right?
The guy that Tristero stabbed.
Yes.
Jackal. Yeah, because there were 4 generals.
Smasher, the Jackal, the Burn Demon, who ended up being my father, and then the Bear. I'm kind of sad we didn't get to see more of the Bear, because
you will next season.
Yeah, right, exactly, and I'm very excited for that. Who was the one that was super pissed? I was very in my own head and in my own lane. Vial Smasher. That was very fun. And that's a difficult thing to role play too. Like trying to come up with a character and trying to come up with dialogue for a character who is just dripping and is just a complete asshole, and getting that across without having to say anything that would like obviously is just inflammatory, and like why would you actually bother saying something like that live? Like you're just going to make people upset. Like towing that line is very difficult, and Jamie did it perfectly. So I'd have to say Vial Smasher for me.
And then for me, I think I actually missed this. So going back to season 1 real quick. My favorite moment with Mort, any interaction with the Hunt is up there. I definitely like feel those small windows into this other side of Mort that is now kind of clashed together in the finale. And then I have pairings in y'all's group, and it's Mort and Tristero, and then Crow and Asher.
I think that's fair.
And so for me, partner and partner is one of my favorite things. The whole casino episode.
That was very fun. Yeah.
It was just
connected
fun to
Tristero
watch.
at the hip was good.
And then moving into the finale, I mean, I've already said my favorite line for Mort when confronting the burnt demon. But then like also that the moments before Tristero showed up where Mort just like falls and is like done.
Yeah.
That was it. I thought that was super powerful. Then we get to the end of the finale where the job's not done and the blue coats show up. How'd you feel about that? Like the moment the harpoons hit the boat.
So the moment I knew something was up was when we were still at the facility and the boat had left, or the boat was sinking.
The boat was sinking.
The boat was sinking and it wasn't us. Like something happened in our favor that we did not put into play.
Yep.
And at that moment I was like, something stinks. Yep. And then we got on the boat and I was like, oh, whatever it is, we're going to find out real soon. Honestly, Mort emotionally was so fatigued by this point, and probably physically as well.
Yeah, you almost traumatized out, if I remember correctly.
Yes, very near. I think I was literally 1 point away.
Yeah.
And I think he went into full just hunker down, like, but somebody tell me what to do and I'll do it, but I'm out right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm completely numb. Nothing matters right now, but I'm here for you guys. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Right.
Yep.
So.
And then we actually get my other favorite Mort scene from the finale, which is Mort finally getting to blow up the boat.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That was
Mr. I've been seasick this entire season.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a very silly character choice that I was like, I almost regretted halfway through the season. It's like, how much should I keep this up? Is it if I just get rid of it now where I'm like fine on the boat, is that progression or is that me like ignoring just ignoring that this aspect of my character exists? But that was a very good a pin in that. It was a nice little tag on the end of that storyline, that piece of his character.
And then we get to y'all on the rooftops.
Yeah.
And time slows down. And I get to watch the entire party be completely engrossed in Jamie while I'm just sitting back smiling, because this was the exact moment that I knew about all the way back in episode 4.
Yeah. God. Yeah, it was fucked up for sure. That was, and it was incredible to watch. I mean, that monologue that Jamie had was extremely well read, well acted, well performed. And a real fucking power play too from a GM to put you in a scenario where like, yeah, no, you got to sit and listen. Like we were stuck in time. You're not allowed to do anything about this. I have a model, and I have no end to the respect I have for Jamie as a GM. And this is one of those moves where I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Take your time, do it. You set this up perfectly. No, we do have to sit and listen to your villain monologue. There's nothing we can do. Go off. Absolutely.
And also, like, yes, that's true, but huge credit to y'all as players for being so engrossed in your characters that you don't immediately interrupt.
Yeah.
Because that is, you and I have probably seen it 100 times at this point. Someone starts the speech that they've been working on for 6 months and waiting on the party to get to this moment, and it's interrupted with a fart joke. So it felt real good to get to watch Jamie show off and pull that speech.
Anybody who's run even a session of a TTRPG is hopefully not the kind of person that's going to interrupt something that clearly someone put their heart into, That's like, just from the meta side of things, like, come on, let them have their moment,
So now we have Archie and the Kindled.
Yeah.
So
Kindled,
how's
great name for a
yes.
group, by the way.
Yes. The Kindled, and then the vial itself is kindling.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
Spooky.
And then we'll get to the fact that Crow has a vial of that stuff right now.
Yeah, right.
I didn't bring that up. I should have brought. So Parker and I's flashing back to that real quick. Hey, call back. Flashing back to my interview with Parker. That was really like the conspiracy theory episode.
Okay.
Because apparently, for context, Parker and Cole, since the finale, like maybe a couple hours after we wrapped up Decompress, have been messaging each other back and forth.
Oh my god.
And they're gonna pull the other two of y'all in eventually.
Yeah.
But I know Parker's off in Germany right now.
Right.
But that was something that I forgot to bring up with Parker. Oh shit, y'all have access to one.
Yeah.
So
that was, yeah.
So we know how the Kindled are cool. I can't wait to see more of them.
Yeah.
But how's Mort feel about Archie now? Because you hugged that man at the beginning of the finale.
Yeah. I think that it's a weirdly easy one to let go for Mort. Believe it or not. And I struggle with that because I do know how I felt about Archie, and I do know how Mort felt about Archie, but their relationship was still not close. You know, they had worked together, and I think Mort would lump him in with the crew as a whole, starting at the beginning of that day.
Yeah.
But I think he's just seen too much at this point. I think Mort is just, again, at this point in that day, at this point in his life, he was just emotionally drained. I don't think he had anything left. So this betrayal is almost trivial to him. He's so taken out of it. I don't think he really gives a shit about what's going on with Archie. And I don't know how the fact that there is still pyro, quote unquote, on the streets, and the fact that there's still someone who's pushing to get it out there, is something that could drive him motivationally. But besides that, I think Mort's head is elsewhere. I think motivation wise, he's in another place.
So we're gonna touch back on that in a minute, because it's interesting how you worded that, because that's it's a little bit of a different perspective than I had coming out of the finale.
Yeah.
But kind of in that same vein, touched a little bit on how you're still feeling about Pyro right now. Let's look at the other side of this little dispute. What about Murmur and the crew? How does Mort feel about that right now?
I don't think he's gotten to the point where he's realized that all of these things reach the same end, right? I mean, we in real life know that all of these things are ultimately a detriment, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he's gotten there. I think he's definitely honed in on Pyro as being sort of the bad guy. And I think the fact that we haven't seen things really break bad with Murmur probably goes into that. I think if he's really confronted with something horrific that happens from Murmur specifically, then he'll think differently. But I think he's pretty indifferent to Murmur. I think he's seen what it can do, and at the worst, it's been somebody kind of had a bad trip, and that's
Tristero.
Basically it. Yeah, right. Yeah. But yeah, I think he's ultimately apathetic to Murmur, and I think he thinks if it were a 1-to-1 replacement, if he took out all of the pyro or kindling and replaced it with murmur, I think he would feel like that was a win with where he is right now. With the crew, still very positive. He has a lot of respect for everyone in the crew. He feels just as blindsided. He doesn't suspect that anyone was maybe in on it with Archie. He's not. I don't think he's suspicious of anybody.
Okay.
I think he definitely has a lot of respect for Tristero stepping up and helping him get out of a bad situation. I think he got to see a lot. I mean, he's throughout their time together, he's seen a lot of amazing heroics and skill from the other two as well. So yeah, from the crew, ultimately very positive for sure.
Yeah. So before we transition into season 2 and talking about that, let's touch back on kindling, because you talk about it like it's just pyro plus.
Yeah.
And that it's going to be the same operations and everything else. I actually don't feel that way.
Okay.
The way I saw that finale, because the other thing is y'all don't have any of the processing equipment for Murmur now. It all got taken out of the warehouse. So for me, that was Archie saying, I'm done playing with these toys. Pyro and Murmur from like a base level are gone. There still may be spots of it here and there. And kindling is something that's just for him, is the way I took it. Like it's now his super drug to cause his fire and everything.
Right.
Or power up everybody in the kindled. So I will be really interested to see if Pyro is still around next season.
Yeah. I think it's really going to take a demonstration of how bad it can really be to get Mort on board with going full against it. Because right now, okay, you've got your super drug for you and your friends, and we helped you get there, and that kind of sucks. But we still destroyed Pyro, and Pyro was just killing people randomly. Like anyone who had some friend who had a little bit, was like, here, try this. You do it and it goes wrong and you fucking die. Like that, obviously that's horrible. And so I think knowing that they were still successful in that, I think Mort is like, sure, you have this. That's fine. I have a demon who's very, very deeply embedded in my soul and my psyche, that I need to fucking get rid of right now. So how, weight wise, what's more important to me right now, right?
I love this. I love this so much. I just got this demon, like,
I've just got a cheeky demon over here.
And then I'll worry about your, raising the city to the ground plan. It's not that big of a deal. I can just punch you and it'll be all over. So kind of on that note, and moving into season 2, so to me, this sounds like there's a chance this might have been the last we see of Mort.
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's possible that we have seen the last of Mort. I would like to, these loose ends that Mort has that he wants to tie up, I would like to play. So I think it all comes down to probably a conversation with Jamie to see where they want to go with the season. And if it fits to, this is very like behind the curtain stuff.
Yeah,
but
that's the point of this question.
Right. Yeah. I think it's if they think it would make sense to go through those things for the audience's benefit, then easily we would see Mort again. But if it just doesn't fit, if we're really going gung-ho all for Archie and the Kindled, then maybe not. I don't know.
Look at that, y'all. Communicating with your GM leads to cool things. Do it.
Yeah.
And like we've really talked about what Mort's mindset is going into next season. Right now, you're very like Mort's in this very apathetic space and has bigger fish to fry. So to
he
speak.
thinks. Yeah.
So he thinks. I mean, to an extent, I agree with you. Seeing the hunt in its full form, like 4 arms, 7 eyes, claws out the wazoo.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be very interesting to have to deal with. And then I have this question as who. I'm gonna ask who or what. So who or what do you want to see more of next season?
Ooh.
And this is as more as John, however you want to take it.
We got a lot of little moments with Crow.
Mm-hmm.
Having this very, very cool relationship with ghosts, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And that was some of my favorite stuff in the entire show, was seeing, I mean, Rue's performance in those moments was just incredible. And also just making Jamie come up with more characters on the spot. Always good.
Yeah.
So, and obviously that one, and I think it was the same episode, episode 3, where Crow had that sort of apathetic moment, or not empathetic moment. Thank you.
We've been saying apathetic a lot.
A lot of it, yeah. That empathetic moment with the creature, who is like this conglomeration of all, just a mass of flesh from all sorts of different creatures. And being able to have that moment and realize what it is they need and what it is they want, and be empathetic in that moment is so cool. That was such a good scene. And I just more Crow, I think, is the answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I agree with that. For me, at least looking at Mort, which I know, depending on what y'all want to get into next season, Mort may or may not be the best fit. I definitely want to see this wrap up with the hunt, because it's come to a head. It's just a matter of when one of y'all pulls the trigger.
Right.
And then for me, I have like other mindset questions, but the other thing I want to talk about, we have not mentioned your sister. That is like a thing.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Because I heard your mother's off in Taikarosi.
Yeah.
Where's your sister?
That another improv thing that I adore, that Jamie took and ran with. It was like, when I sent them my backstory too, I said something to the effect of, I am not married to any of this. You could scrap this entire thing. I don't care. Just let me know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I purposely made a lot of the terms very loose, so you can sort of have wiggle room to do with this what you want. And I don't think I ever stated a number of siblings or who those siblings were. I think I stated that I had sibling, potentially multiple, and it wasn't a huge part of the backstory. So the fact that they turned that into, okay, you do have a sibling, it is a sister, and they were taken by your mother off to wherever they ended up at. So love that. First off, just a fun thing to now know about my own character. And that would be really wild if that one came back around, and that would be extremely fun to play with if it turns out that my sister in the game is out there and is a problem and needs to be dealt with, or just isn't, and maybe finds their way into Doskval, and Mort probably would not be into that. And it was like, hey, you and mom, as long as mom's not a secret mastermind and is getting into other shit elsewhere and has you involved, you guys probably had the right idea to get the hell out of here. You really shouldn't be here, especially now that I've made more enemies, you know?
Yeah.
And the fact that there's a demon running around cherry picking members of our family to do their bidding.
Oh no, what if the sister is also with the hunt?
Yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah, because for me, the reason I asked specifically about your sister is because the way the Burn Demon talked about it, your mother went to Tycheros. I never heard where your sister went.
Right.
Because they left the day of the coup, but then specifically mom went to Tycherosi.
Yeah.
So just to like throw you that thread and
yeah,
have you
thanks.
Have to that, yeah. Here's the thing. I'm having to do these for everybody. So I have 4 times this right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very troubling.
Yeah. So have fun with that.
Thank you.
Then
much appreciated.
Looking ahead at season 2. What for ease, we're gonna say it's Mort that you're playing.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
What does Mort want to be remembered for? What mark does he want to leave on Duskfall, if one at all?
Boy. Yeah, if one at all is right. I don't think Mort ever had visions of grandeur in any way, shape, or form. I think he spent a lot of his life at this point trying to make up for his past.
Yeah.
I think he has this whole idea of what did I call it? I'm gonna have to like look it up to actually get it. Right, his vice. So his vice is obligation, right?
Oh yeah.
He has this obligation to his former unit, and it leads to a lot of some good and some really bad, right? He had his military uniform that could have actively come in handy for one of the gigs I wanted to say, one of the jobs that we did, and he ends up burning his uniform as his stress release at the end of that episode. So that's a severe negative. And then in addition to that, he just ends up basically anyone that Jamie introduces that is from my former military unit, I just owe something to inherently. So that was something that could have been really bad if I wasn't completely tied up with the Burn Demon in the basement in the finale. Dealing with Bear could have been a whole fucking other thing. And I had some ideas in my head about how that could have played out, and it never came to fruition. So we'll see what happens
potentially next season.
So he's largely been making up for his past. He kind of I guess late in his military career, but I don't think he was in the military for that long before this happened. He had long enough to build up this bond with his unit, and then had to kill his father, which he feels really guilty about. And so there's trying to make up for that, and trying to make up for the fact that his mother got away. Like that, there was that whole aspect where he now feels this obligation to his unit because he failed the mission. The coup didn't go, his mom got away, he killed it. Like that's a whole mixed mess in his mind that entire day. So he's spending a lot of time trying to make this up to his unit and make it up to himself. And then with everything that follows, everything that happens with Murmur, everything that happens with Pyro, all of that he's taking on to himself. Anything that happens now with the hunt, he's feeling guilty about. I think if he can convince himself that Duskfall came out a net 0 regarding his involvement, he will take that as a severe win, and anything less will be a severe disappointment to him.
That I could agree with that. So more of a fun question. Because Mort had a lot in that finale, and that's kind of bled through for us into season 2 and talking about what could be. We do have some fun things to talk about because of season 2, and we'll talk about this during our session 0 in a couple weeks. But y'all currently don't have a patron, but you still have the patron ability.
Right.
And I've heard a couple different options thrown out. There's Skurlock. Yeah. There's the Damned. And there's Helene.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Cole throughout the Hive as well. That's another option.
The Hive.
So what are you feeling, John? What direction you want to see this crew go?
Those are vastly different directions, I would say.
Yep.
Basically all of those. I really like the idea of Helene. I like Helene as an option. It seems very clean, personally. It's just you've got the money. No one's questioning where you're getting the money from. You have the connection. It's kind of a layup, I would say.
Yeah.
The other ones are real wild. I would like to throw in the Dimmer sisters.
Yeah,
we have kind of a history with them. We have a positive relationship with them.
I want to say Cole threw that out, but that might have been outside our interview.
I remember our interactions with them very fondly. So I think that would be another like very weird and potentially very fun direction to go in with it. Yeah.
I think that's a safer bet than Skurlock, personally.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Because that's always fun. And then it's really interesting to see what y'all talk about, because you and Cole both have talked about Helene. And Parker even said Helene, but there were a lot of buts and ifs added onto that.
It would put Asher in a very awkward position.
Yeah. I think that's the majority why. And then I'm just excited to see what y'all go with. Cole even threw out like switching out that ability for something else. So which is an option. So
that would be very cool. It'd be cool to look at the other options. The other way that it could go, and it would be real fucking wild, and it would be very, very complicated for Mort, is if the Hunt filled that role. I don't know how that would work mechanically. I don't know what that would look like, but certainly a powerful presence.
I don't know if it could. But even then, I think not even taking into account that I play Wick, I think the Damned's the safer option.
Yeah.
You get the same thing. They're murderers.
Yeah.
So interesting. But yeah, so that was us talking about the entirety of the season, and going into season 2 and all that. We're now at closing remarks. I have 2 questions. The first one is, this is open floor. You can talk about the cast. You can talk about Jamie specifically, and you can talk about your time on Huntsman's Hydra. Just whatever you want to discuss. Like I mentioned before we started recording, Parker went super sappy. Cole started calling people out. Whatever you want.
Yeah. I mean, it's been such an incredible experience. I feel extremely welcome into this space by you and the other folks at Huntsman's Hydra, Jamie included. And it's really special for me. This is the first streamed TTRPG that I've done on a channel that I did not produce myself. So that was huge. Like that was a big going outside of my comfort zone thing, and to be welcomed with such open arms, and to be encouraged and to be helped and uplifted at every point. And honestly, this whole experience has also been a master class in a lot of aspects of streaming TTRPGs for me as someone who does it myself. Because there's a lot of things that me and my friends on our channel are not necessarily the best at right now, that we haven't really had to confront, because so far the only people who have played on our channels are literally the people who we've known and been friends with for like over a decade. So there's a lot of these aspects that you don't need to consider, thinking specifically about safety tools and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's it had never been a part of our games prior to streaming them live on Twitch. And so that it just never really made its way in, because it was all the same people doing all the same stuff. And no one has ever stepped out of line. But now I have such a better idea since moving into this space in general, and specifically since doing this game with you and with Jamie on the Huntsman's Hydra. It's given me a lot of stuff to think about moving forward with my own content. And I'm so immensely grateful to have been given the opportunity to sit in on that masterclass and sort of take notes and yeah, I'm very grateful for that. The safety tools in place here are extremely good. The space that we're given after each session to talk things out and make sure that character bleed is taken care of, or at least confronted, right?
Yeah.
Super important to take care of people in that way, to set a standard for saying we are paying our people. That's huge. Because this is work, and no matter how fun it is, people like anytime you're demanding people's time, it's there has to be compensation for that. And it doesn't matter what it, like how much it is or whatever. The fact that there is a standard here for we pay our people is so incredible, and I commend you for it. And I'm extremely proud to have been a part of this channel in general. Yeah, I've learned a ton. I had a great time playing. I've expanded my TTRPG horizons, I think, significantly. Just like there are so many games that I have never played and never even heard of. Blades in the Dark being one of them, and just by being in calls with you guys who know all of this stuff about all these games that I would adore, I just never would have heard of otherwise. So it's just been, it's a very, very cool and a very knowledgeable group of people to be able to spend some time with every couple weeks. So yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about all of these people. Top-notch role players on this cast, like top-notch performers, top-notch cosplayers, in some cases, not myself at all, but really just incredible group of performers. Yeah, I couldn't be happier with the experience.
And then, John, I leave you with this final question.
Okay.
If you could say something to him right now, what would you say to Archie?
I think if it were Mort, and I think this is what I'll leave you with, I think he would say to Archie, I'm not the one you should be intimidated by.
Damn.
And I think I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. That's very, that's perfect. With that lovely line, this has been an interview post season 1 of Fire in the Dark. I've been joined by John Downey, who is incredible. Go check him out on all the things. His links will be below, and go especially check out the Outlaws Network, because you talk a lot about learning things from us and being here, but like a lot of a lot of the joy that I get out of improv and role play, a lot of that I get to see over at the Outlaws Network, and is not something I truly get to experience on other actual plays. So being able to see that chaos and be able to grab some of my favorite tidbits and pull them into my games is just beautiful. For instance, the diner that y'all go to all the time in Outlaws and Old Ones.
That was yeah, that was quite an episode. Oh my god. Yeah.
But I will leave you all with that and look forward. If you're watching these in order, our next interview's Rue and then Jamie after that. But otherwise, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon for season 2.
Bye.